Hello and welcome to Saturdays with Christian Finnegan. At least that's what I'm calling it when it's a Saturday that I'm posting my conversation with Christian Finnegan. I always love talking with Christian about anything, but I love recapping the news and the things that we've been thinking about recently this past week and get his perspective, his framing on those issues, those people. That's exactly what we did today when we talked about Henry Kissinger, who he had, a unique take on. Also, George Santos, Elon Musk, and more. It's always fun to talk with Christian. I love his perspective. I love his clarity on so many things, his opinions, his values, his humility and modesty as well. So let's do it. I hope you're enjoying your weekend and appreciate me dropping this baby on a Saturday. Thank you so much for supporting me and the program. And if you have something that you want me to promote, a podcast, a Substack, a harvest of honey, or a dry rub, I'm just thinking of a few of the things that I've promoted here in the past of listeners. Get ready, because soon there's going to be a one-stop place for all of your goods and services. If you're a member of the stand-up community, I'm happy to promote your stuff, which is why before I get to my conversation with Christian, I want to tell you about my friend Dr. Barry Hummel's podcast that he does with his daughter, Abigail. So good, but you know what? I'll let them tell you.
Welcome to the Pops on Hops podcast, where we listen to some pops, drink a little hops, and I get to hang out with my pop. I'm Abigail Hummel.
And I'm Barry Hummel, and this is our little exploration of beer, music, and family.
During each episode, one of us will bring a musical assignment to the table.
And the other will bring a selection of craft beers from a brewery of their choice.
Our goal is to discover and share new or old music that we may have missed out on due to the generational divide between us.
All while sharing and discussing some delicious craft beer along the way.
Our regular episodes drop every other Friday, but don't be surprised if we sneak in a few bonus episodes featuring artist interviews and other alternative content.
And if you want to join the fun, consider submitting an album selection to our virtual jukebox. Visit popsonhopspod.com for more details.
In the meantime, you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Pops on Hops Pod, or you can email us at popsonhopspod@gmail.com.
Bye.
Yeah, go get yourself some Pops on Hops after you finish my conversation with Christian Finnegan, or anytime wherever you get your podcast. Dr. Barry Hummel and his daughter Abigail are awesome, and so are you. Thank you very much for listening. I think you're going to love my conversation with Christian. Follow him on all the social media outlets, get his albums, and subscribe to his Substack newsletter about music like no other. It's newmusicforolds.substack.com. Let's do it with Christian Finnegan. Yes, there he is. Saturday. The Saturday conversation with Christian Finnegan. I'm branding it. What do you think?
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's no Finnegan or whatever used to call me, Vera. What was that?
Well, that was a listener suggestion, which they even wrote a song, and we should get the band back together because I've been talking to her lately. And
yeah, Ophira's got like work and like gigs all of a sudden, and like she's big mucky muck with this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. She's doing great. But we should get the band together. But people love the Christian on the Saturdays. They love when we talk about the things. They love having a show.
They love the things. That's what people say all the time. They're like, they write me and they say, I love the things.
Yep. Well, one of the things I know people really love is when we talk about dead bad people.
Dead bad people. Yep.
And this week we lost a real baddie in Henry Kissinger. And yeah,
I thought you meant like bad people, not like cool bad.
Oh,
which is what,
no, I meant like
Henry Kissinger. He's bad.
Yeah, he's bad. Now,
not a good guy.
What were your thoughts when you heard that he was even still alive at 100? I don't know how closely you followed his work, his career.
It's awkward. I had to then go to a tattoo artist and get RIP written over my lower back tattoo, which is unfortunate.
I didn't know you were
still a little sore.
Such a fanboy.
Oh yeah. I just want I want to give guys something to look at. What? I don't even know what that means. Wow. When I'm getting butt fucked.
You're in a weird gay kink, man. I had no idea that you were into dudes who loved monsters in real life. Oh, he froze.
I did freeze. Right when I had a great louse joke.
Oh, gonna keep that in.
For the last 10 years, Kissinger has been just a meme that only comes up when someone beloved dies. I mean, that's been kind of his visibility over the past 10 years, is like, and yet Kissinger still lives. It'd be like David Bowie died, and, Henry Kissinger is still alive. So, I mean, it is a nice reminder that nature will come for us all. Whatever, man. I mean, the dude is a piece of shit, and our foreign policy was governed by a lot of pieces of shit over the years, and I think that especially before the internet social media era, it was easier to sort of survive in the foreign policy firmament for 50 years being a piece of shit, because there just wasn't as much day-to-day scrutiny from average folks. You know what I mean? Like the only people who, it feels like the only people who are like really keyed into just how instrumental he was, or just how plugged in he was, were people who had sort of a transactional relationship with that world themselves. Do you know what I mean? Access journalists and other politicians and whatnot. I mean, Hillary Clinton was meeting with him when she was still on the politicals, like a lot of Democrats who you think would know better. And, I don't think that would happen now. I think that people understand that, like, oh, no, this dude is like beyond canceled. Like canceled is like an unfortunate word to use, but it's just like, no, it's not acceptable to sort of try to appeal to the foreign policy hawks by having a dinner or be on a panel with Henry Kissinger, that the blowback from people online, I think, made that no longer worth it. Is it, you know what I mean? That it's like there was something to be gained, I think, for the late 20th century and first 10 years of the 21st century, of like, you meet with Henry Kissinger because he's a big deal, and he's sort of plugged into sort of military apparatus and foreign policy apparatus and donors and things like that. That he had sort of a moneyed cachet to him. That there was something to be gained by being seen with Henry Kissinger. It made you look like a player.
Well, I think that's how his whole company, whatever it's called, made money just on his name, Kissinger and Associates. Yeah, we'll pay them. Well, just to be affiliated with them. Yeah. It's like I'm
the kind of person who had a meeting with Henry Kissinger. Like, that's how big a deal I am. Like, but I think that once, social media got into the equation, I think that it stopped being it's just stopped being worth it, I think, for centrists to be seen with Henry Kissinger.
It's interesting to think what you said about Kissinger being canceled. It really made me think about, just for a moment, in which I don't think I ever have. So hear me out. The idea that somebody could be canceled, some creep, for committing a sexual assault or domestic abuse. And, you thought he was just a lovely writer. Or an anchor, Matt Lauer. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Canceled. Dude definitely got canceled. Dude is not getting another gig ever, apparently. And no one's worried about him because he owns an island in New Zealand or something. But you think about what he did, you think about versus some civilian or military leader whose decisions were responsible for the slaughter of innocent people, somehow still getting speaking gigs. And I'm talking about people from the Bush administration, and some of which almost revived themselves by coming out against Trump. And it's weird that those people don't ever get seemingly canceled. Civilian and military leaders whose choices and decisions were responsible for the death of lots of people are still living large and getting work.
Well, I mean, that's why the word, canceled is such a, people forget that, like, canceled started off as a joke. Like, it was like a funny thing to say, like, oh, that person is canceled, like as if it is possible to cancel a human being, like a human being just literally, you know what I mean? Like, that's what became kind of funny. But now it's been sort of so much gravitas has been hung on the word canceled that it's like, yeah, you're right. We're roping in Louis C.K. and Henry Kissinger under the same word, right, which is bizarre.
Or why aren't we? Why aren't we? Like, how come he's still allowed in polite company? I'm saying, like, Harvey Weinstein.
Well, because in order to be canceled in the way that we all understand it, you have to begin by being beloved. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to disappoint the people who support you. Whereas like Henry Kissinger, the people who love him or loved what he did probably still do for the most part. They might not say it out loud, or they might not admit that, like, oh, maybe the Christmas Day bombing, maybe mistakes were made, but in their heart of hearts, they're still sort of ideological allies with Henry Kissinger.
But probably
Do you know what
nobody
I mean? Whereas,
loved him. They probably just wanted to get close to him, to get close to who he knew, and I mean, used him in the same way like people don't love Trump, but they kiss his ass or try to get close to him because of who he's close to or what he can do.
I think that's certainly true. But I also think that, and granted, I am not an expert on this. You know, that might come as a shock to you. In my 27 years as a stand-up comedian, that I'm not an expert in the life of Henry Kissinger. But I do think that there was also kind of like people looked up to him as sort of the ultimate in, realpolitik, as the guy who like just sees the world like a chessboard and there's no morality about it. It's like, this is to our advantage, this is to our disadvantage. And there was almost kind of an admiration for his unfeelingness or his just strategic thinking that some people think is what's really needed in this world. It's like none of this, bleeding heart, save the whales bullshit. It's like when push comes to shove, you need a guy like Henry Kissinger.
Yes, that was that his foreign policy. If only he was allowed to do more of that, we would have ended those wars quicker.
I mean, and I do think obviously there's so many people, especially our parents' generation, who think that like if they had just hung in Vietnam, it all could have been fine. But
I've decided there are 3 tiers of people now in my mind, and one is a Henry Kissinger or someone like him who's making foreign policy decisions in large part in terms of how they would affect his own interests, his own reputation, his own career. Will he be able to work in this administration or that administration? Will he remain in the halls of power? Is a lot of why he makes the decisions. And then you've got people like Chris Cuomo now, and certainly so many other people who say things they don't believe, Kevin McCarthy and others, to be relevant. That's a secondary, terrible way to exist, like with zero integrity at all. And then I think there's the rest of us that try to like make a living being honest as much as we can and believing as much as we can in the kind of the things that we're doing. Somewhere.
Yeah, I don't want to now jump in and defend Henry Kissinger or whatever, but at least you could say, where the guy stood. You know what I mean? That like he had a worldview and a worldview of like what was necessary and what wasn't. And, he was certainly willing to sell out whoever, including, the Jewish people in Russia. I mean, there's, of course, now there's a bunch of quotes going around, just like awful things he said over the years or whatever. And there's, back in the 60s and 70s or whatever, when there was a lot of anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union, and basically him telling, I don't know if it was when he was with Nixon or whatever, but I think it was him telling Nixon basically like, hey, not our fight. Not really a big deal. Like, we don't need to get involved in any of that. I'm just saying it's like the guy had a perspective on how America should exercise power. And you can at least, I don't know if respect is the right word, but you could depend on knowing. Whereas like with a Kevin McCarthy, who the fuck knows? Like there is no there. I mean, there's nothing. And, it's Chris Cuomo obviously is a journalist, so it's a slightly different standard. But yeah, I mean, there's.
Did you see what he said yesterday?
Oh no,
that's the reason I brought him up.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was a weird leap.
Yeah, I should have said that. But he basically went on that weird, very popular guy Patrick, what's his last name, show on YouTube, and basically said that Biden and Trump were similar, and that he's open to voting for Trump, and he's gone full kind of red pill just to maintain. Because he's on News Nation now, I think, and he's trying to, get. There's no I mean, it was just disgusting. Like, of course he doesn't believe, and so many other people. Chris Sununu now saying he can see himself voting for Trump. Like, and last year or years ago said he's fucking crazy. Like, those people don't have any principles, and then all these other media people that have huge followings. They'll say whatever it takes, whether they mean it or not, from Gutfeld to Jesse Waters to Ben Shapiro and all the rest. Like, come on. They don't have any real core beliefs.
No, there's no mooring at all. I mean, maybe there is with like a Ben Shapiro, just in the sense that it's like, I mean, he's all those right-wing pundit dudes. I mean, yeah, they're all fucking liars, but at least you understand that they're lying to achieve a certain agenda. I mean, they're completely dishonest in the way they present things. They always argue in bad faith, but at least you know what their goals are. Whereas like somebody like Chris Cuomo, it's like, it's literally what will make people care about me. You know, it's completely just to sort of stay in the warm light of attention. You know what I mean? That it's like if this, I'm sure during the Obama years when the vibe was hope and change and progressive politics of like when that was where sort of the cultural zeitgeist was, they wanted to be at the forefront of that. And then when there's a backlash to that, they want to be at the forefront of that. They literally are just trying to position themselves in front of the camera, no matter which direction the camera is aimed.
Yeah. And you would never do anything like that.
I mean, who knows? No one's ever offered. I'd love to say I wouldn't, but well, no, I mean, I know for a fact I wouldn't. I've certainly been offered, not in the politics realm, but I've certainly been offered things over the years that I just instinctively was like, no, I can't do that. And it's not like I'm better than that, but it's like it violates something within me to where I know I would not be good at it. Like I was interviewed once. I went to a lunch with a woman who was a fan of Best Week Ever, which was the VH1 show I was on for a few years. And she wanted to chat me up about this new show that they were starting, and she wanted me to be involved. And she said, it's working with, have you ever heard of this website, TMZ? And I was like, immediately, I was like, well, this now became awkward because there's just no way that I was going to be involved with TMZ. And later, what I came to realize is like, they wanted me to be like one of those fucking idiots sitting in the office, like laughing at Harvey Levin's jokes.
Oh, you'd have been great at that.
Oh, God, I definitely would have shot the place up within 6 months. There's not a question in my mind.
And now he's also killed himself, folks. Wow, that was bad. We should have turned the cameras off. I'm
not saying that they would have hired me, but it's like that's what the lunch was about. Yeah. She was approaching me to try to get me to come over and do that. And, you know, and it's not like I was like offended and I would never. I mean, I did feel that way, but really the bottom line is like I just knew. I even told her, I was like, I'm not going to be good at that.
Yeah.
You know, there's something within me that would stop me from being good at that.
Yeah, but there's also a whole bunch of other things that you wouldn't do or wouldn't say or wouldn't be a part of. And there's countless examples throughout your career. And certainly I feel the same way about myself and a lot of other people that we like and respect. And I think that's I think it's worth just mentioning, I guess, that to people listening about how media works and how politics works and how, to some extent, power works. And how, you know, just psychoanalyzing what kind of person can just completely sell out for power and money. And, you know, we started with Henry Kissinger, but I'm talking about.
Well, and I don't even think that it's selling out for some people. And like, I don't want to act like that somehow makes me better or not. I just know I have a gag reflex. I have a very sensitive gag reflex that kicks in that is going to prevent me from doing the job that you want to hire me to do. And so it's not like I'm trying to be moralistic and I'm not being like, oh, I could really be great on TMZ, but I'm better than that. It's like, no, I just know for a fact. It was like when clubs would ask me to bark, be like, you don't want me to bark. You don't want me to. I'll be terrible at it.
Handing out flyers on the sidewalk.
Barking is handing out flyers. I was like, hey, live comedy tonight, guys. Like I just told people like, I'll do anything else for you, but I know for a fact I'll be terrible at that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the people that I came to admire the most in those years of kind of like when Best Week Ever was kind of a big deal within our little world. And I was sort of getting meetings and opportunities to maybe do other things. One of the people I came to respect was Ryan Seacrest. Just as somebody who, you know, he does live television, or at the time he was on, you know, American Idol 3 times a week or whatever, 2 hours of live television a night. And that dude would just look in the prompter. He'd read the words on it and he would keep the show moving. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas I would always be like, well, I got to put my special spin on it, and I got to be funny and quirky and weird, and I've got to be cool, but not too cool. And then I would suck because I would get all locked up in trying to be a comedian. Whereas, like, I think there's a real skill to just, I'm a presenter. I am a guy who says, welcome to American Idol, or whatever. And I have a respect for that. I'm just not good at it.
Well, that's because you're not as good looking as him. Like, if people are that beautiful and you're a good looking guy, that's kind of
easy to say. I don't feel so, but thank you.
They just know I'm a face. Let me just read these lines and not fuck it up. But I'm more talking about specifically, like,
yes, we're veering off. We're mixing Henry Kissinger and Ryan Seacrest at this point.
Well, I'm saying that you can't and haven't gone off on a rant or said a thing that you don't believe to profit. And you wouldn't even probably want to be adjacent to somebody on a panel, on a show that would be doing those kinds of things, because you're not in the world. You're not having a good faith discussion with someone because
there's a way to do it. I've seen people who I respect who are able to enter those spaces and come out. I mean, look at somebody. I know this is something you would maybe want to talk about, so it's maybe a nice excuse to dovetail. Look at somebody like Gavin Newsom, who I don't know him much, as it's like he's been a guy who's been on the periphery of my political understanding for the past 15 years or whatever, but I've never lived in California. I don't really have a strong opinion about how he does as a governor or how he was as a, mayor of San Francisco before that. I don't have any feelings about that, but I will say that he is that happy warrior. He's that guy who can go on to a Hannity and DeSantis and look completely at ease and not intimidated by it and not grossed out, and he can be respectful. And there's something in me that I don't think I would be able to do that. I think that my gag reflex would kick in and I would just be awkward. Yeah. Like when you went on Rogan, I don't know that I would be able to go on Rogan because I think that my politeness impulse mixed with my feelings about what he's about would come into conflict, and it would just be, I would be awkward.
I think that because I did it pre-pandemic, I didn't have to grapple as much with and once he got into the anti-vax stuff, I think that it would have been a lot more awkward.
Sure.
I ended up, it did not go great for me at all. But let me ask you about another big, important, really well-respected person this week that died, George Santos.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't die, but he kind of did.
I just want to pour out a little malt liquor.
He is very close to your district, right? He's your...
He does not represent. I mean, he's somewhere. I don't know where in Long Island he is, but
I thought he was like the district next to yours. Anyway,
no, I don't. I mean, he may be. I mean, he may be the nearest. I don't. I don't know geographically where in Long Island he was.
They haven't expelled a congressman. They canceled him from Congress. They haven't done that since like the Civil War. About 100 Republicans voted to keep him, I guess, or voted to, and then that would be about 100 wanted to keep him, 100 voted him out. Most Democrats voted him out except for 2. And, it's kind of weird to me because that's the guy that they chose, because there's so many of them that are still in Congress that are actually insurrectionists. Didn't do.
Oh, yeah. But again, though, he wasn't culturally, he didn't have a cultural affinity with the Republican base. I mean, he had a bit of an affinity in the Republican base in the sense that it has now embraced being a fucking liar, and fabulism and sort of lying as a strategic means to an end, which I think kind of is what unites a lot of the Republican base now, that it's like what we're fighting for is more important than being tactically principled. I really think that's, I'm trying to put a kind of a non-judgmental spin on it.
I hear you.
I think that whether they'll say it out loud or not, I think that's sort of the consensus. And I think this is one of the things that Trump taught them is like, oh, you can just lie. You can lie. No one will be able to prove you're wrong. And you will show your base that will look like strength, because there's nothing to be gained by timidity or shame or anything like that. Forward, always on the attack, because our end goal of us being in power is really what it's about. It's really not about doing it the right way. It's about winning.
Winning is the principle. And if George Santos, it's like, it doesn't matter how you got there, as long as you're a Republican and vote with Republicans, which is hilarious because they actually have a problem with not voting together, even on speaker. There's a rift within the party. But the point is, it doesn't matter if you cheated to get in. It doesn't matter if you're dishonest. It's like you walk in the door and you caucus with Republicans, like, welcome. Not sure how you got here. Don't care what you believe in, just as long as you won. And we can keep not passing legislation, by the way. So it's not exactly sure what they're doing, the Republican Party.
Well, and I think that Trump, and as a result, the Republican machinery at this point, I think they kind of appreciate bald-faced liars and people who are unprincipled because they can depend on their dishonesty. Do you know what I mean? Like, one of the things I think, people always say, like, oh, how is so-and-so going to endorse Trump after they said all this crap about them back in 2016?
Right.
I think Trump loves those people. He loves the people who will talk shit about him and then come around and kiss the ring because they know that they need to in order to be close to power. I think Trump trusts those people more than he trusts his actual fans. I think because he trusts people's self-interest, that he operates on people's self-interest. I mean, Kevin McCarthy was that guy. I think that's why I like Kevin McCarthy, because Kevin McCarthy is a unprincipled cipher. Like there's no moral bearing to contend with Kevin McCarthy. So it's like he's just a piece of clay you can move around and do whatever you want with. I think Trump really loves people who have conquered their gag reflex.
It's a weird thing to have said something like Mike Johnson, like Chris Sununu about Donald Trump, like Lindsey Graham, like Ted Cruz at one point, something terrible about him. And if we elect him, he'll destroy us, Lindsey Graham said, and so many other comments. He's crazy. He's unprincipled. He's amoral. And then fall in line and be fully supportive with him. They're not really, I don't remember in American history there being a real precedent for that in politics, much less in any other kind of halls of power or pop culture. Like, one minute you hate this person, they're terrible, and then not long after you're supporting them for president of the United States. There's nothing like it.
No, I mean, the tail has long since started wagging the dog. I mean, it's all, people aren't really even scared of Trump. They're scared of Trump's base.
Right.
I mean, it ends up being the same thing, obviously, but they're scared of his command over 30% of the country. That there's 30% of people who have decided that he is their avatar because they want to be as amoral and cynical as he is.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I don't want to say I'm sorry anymore. I don't want to apologize. I want to just be able to insult people all the time and lie and be a complete fucking scumbag. And so he's aspirational in that sense,
What else was I going to ask you about from the week Elon Musk and his performance and what's gone on Twitter in the past couple of weeks. I don't know if you've seen much of a difference, if you're posting a lot more in other places. I continue to be sad by it. David Roberts tweeted today that, just hint, some left-wing billionaire waits for this to die and, buys it and renews kind of journalistic ethic about it. Like it can be saved. We're still kind of hanging on to what it could be while trying to find new places to exist and to post. But Elon Musk this week, of course, with Andrew Ross Sorkin and the performance that he gave as advertisers continued to flee. And he says, fuck all of them, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, well, I kind of see his point. I mean, part of it, he's so used to being in this echo chamber of people who just lap up whatever bullshit he says.
Yeah, for sure.
Who thinks that just saying go fuck yourself is in and of itself hilarious. Do you know what I mean? Like, just that is a joke. to them. And so I'm sure you could tell that when he said that, he looked in the audience like he looked like that 1 year comic who is going up at a real club show in front of an actual audience and not other open micers for the first time. And they're doing all that back of the room shit that kills at the open mic. And he's not getting any response, and he just doesn't know how to process it. Like, he's just baffled. And as he keeps swearing more, it's like, I'll just keep saying, fuck themselves, fuck you, you know, whatever. And because these aren't like dumb blue check suck ups. These are like industry leaders and business journalists and stuff. And, you know, but I think that his point, what he can't say or what he won't say, and what I'm sure that everyone involved with Twitter begs him not to say, is that, like, I don't give a fuck about Twitter. I'm going to be a billionaire or whatever. Twitter can go away tomorrow and I'm still going to be fucking Elon Musk. The problem is, like, Elon Musk has partners, you know, that he's not the sole owner. I mean, there's other investors in Twitter. I mean, there's other money there, and they don't want to hear that. And I think that he's bluffing a lot. I think that the loss of Twitter would crush him in terms of his self-image. Whether it crushed him financially, I don't think so. But in terms of, like, the sort of the guy he sees in the mirror would be very hurt by the loss of Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think that he is right in the sense that it's like, he doesn't give two fucks about a company. You know, it's like his net worth is not tied up in Twitter to the extent that, like, yours is with this podcast. You know what I mean?
But I'm not quite sure if I'm following you, because his self-worth,
I'm not sure I'm following me either. So that,
well, you're saying his net worth isn't, and I agree, obviously, but you're also saying his self-worth is.
His self-worth is, but that's the part I don't think he's able to fully accept or appreciate. You know, he's saying, fuck you, you're not going to bribe me, because that's just sort of the lesson he's learned over the 5 years, is just, again, to never back down, always forward, always forward, always forward, you know, and to double down constantly and raise the stakes. His feeling is probably like, at the end of the day, I'm the richest man in the world. Like, if it comes to a financial war, I'm going to win. The thing he doesn't appreciate, I think, is that these companies don't think they're at war with you, dude. They just don't want to spend money on you. You know what I mean? That it's like, this isn't personal for IBM or, you know, Ford Motor Company or whatever. It's just that there's certain practices that are good business and certain practices that aren't. And if the reach of Twitter does not justify the grief it caused you, then companies are going to stop giving you money. You know, I don't know. But the ego stuff, I think that he's in a little bit of denial about that. But I think that if Twitter were to go away, I mean, I'm sure he'd find some bullshit way to spin it. But I think that it would pop his balloon as a public figure in a big way.
Well, a million other things to talk about with you, but I have taken up enough of your time. I hope that
you hope you've taken up enough of my time.
No, I hope that people appreciate you stopping by with us, because it's always fun to discuss all these things. You know, it's.
I feel like I had 3 coherent things. At
one point, I know you're going to say that. That's why I started to prevent it. I tried a preemptive compliment, but you got in there. Which was at one point you said about Henry Kissinger. You know, I'm not a Henry Kissinger expert, but I think that what people like about you coming on is that you're paying enough attention to obviously the issues that I'm talking about throughout your life in many cases, and your kind of moral clarity and ability to articulate what a lot of us feel, and your ability to frame it and look at it a little bit differently often in this case, and make points, frankly, that we haven't heard other people make, even a few days after something happens. We always love that. So you always offer that, and that's why
I will say that, like, you know, I've learned that I'm never going to beat other people on facts and info. But where if I shine anywhere, it's understanding the frail reasons why people act like dicks, and the sort of the human part of it.
Yeah, well, you understand a lot more about the human part of it, and you're able to interpret and synthesize information, and then explain things in a way that I feel as we listen, we think, yes, it's a great point. That's how I feel, and I think that's part of why people always enjoy having you here talking about these things. So I know you've got to get to a George Santos benefit show. So much for selling out.
Do we want to go ahead and take bets on which reality show he will first pop up on?
It's a guarantee.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying, do we want to bet on which one? I don't know if Celebrity Big Brother is still happening, but that would be my first guess. There's a reality show now called House of Villains, which is like a show where all the bad guys from other reality shows, like the villains from other reality shows, are all in a house together. That would be a good one for him, I think.
What about a show for people with weird bodies?
Yeah, he has a very strange body. He has a very odd body. Because sometimes I'll think like...
Body shamers.
No, but sometimes I'll be like, oh, wow, he's actually like, I think he's lost weight. And then I'll see him the next day, be like, oh, he's gained weight. And the next day, I'll be like, no, I think he's lost weight. Like, he looks he has a wide berth, which how he looks on a day-to-day basis.
I feel bad for my joke, but I think a lot about
it. Mr. Skinny, high metabolism, never had to struggle with food for any reason whatsoever. I get why it's easy for you to take pot shots at the rest of us.
Hot shots. Okay, thank you, bud. I talk to you really soon.
Worst ending ever.
Indeed it was. Sorry about that. Oh, another great one with Christian Finnegan. Please go subscribe to his Substack. It's newmusicforolds.substack.com. So much fun every week, and if you subscribe twice a week. And speaking of great Substacks you can subscribe to, also want to promote our friend Matt Carlson, who's doing a great daily newsletter and often podcasting as well. And here's a trailer for his stuff.
Hey, everybody. It's Matty C. You might remember me from the weekly stand-up hangouts, or maybe you caught me on my solo tour this past summer. Well, not only am I an active member here at the stand-up community, I've built my own space over at Substack. What Am I Making is a daily blog and a weekly podcast about music, film, culture, and living a life filled with intention and art. I write about movies, records, culture, bands, my mental health journey, and my ongoing work as a musician, writer, podcaster, and designer. It's a communal space where we can discover new meaning through old classics and find new artistic gems and personal discoveries along the way. Please join us today at whatamimaking.substack.com. You can subscribe for free and get access to all the content on the site. Once again, that link is whatamimaking.substack.com. Please come join the conversation. Back to you, Pete.
Thank you very much, Matt. And check out Pops on Hops as well, as you heard before, wherever you get your podcasts. Support our community and each other. Get to know each other. Work with each other. Hang out with each other. Maybe you'll travel with each other and get married to each other. I don't know. It's a wonderful community of people. And I'm so happy to have guys like Barry and Matt and the rest of you listening. If you've got something you want me to promote, reach out. standupwithpete@gmail.com. And soon we'll have a whole site dedicated to listeners, services, goods, anything you're selling, you want to barter, you name it. We will sign off and give credibility to the different people that want to put their name on that site. All right. Well, more on that soon. Thanks so much for listening today. John Carroll taking us out as always. Go check his stuff out at johncarroll.org.
They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for loss, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. package to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not